The diner smelled of fresh coffee and fried bacon when Jake Miller walked in that morning. A single dad and a mechanic by trade, Jake wasn't looking for trouble. He just wanted a quiet corner, a cup of coffee, and a moment to catch his breath before heading to the shop. But the silence didn't last. Across the room, a woman in a wheelchair, her leather jacket worn and patched with the unmistakable Hells Angels emblem, was being cornered by two uniformed cops. Their voices weren't loud, but the tone was sharp, condescending, almost mocking. "Where'd you steal that jacket, sweetheart?" one officer sneered. The woman's face tightened. Her knuckles gripped the wheels of her chair. Jake didn't know her story. But he knew that look, the same one he'd seen on his late wife's face when people judged her for being sick, when strangers assumed weakness was an invitation for cruelty. He stood up. His boots echoed on the tile floor as he walked toward the scene. "Is there a problem here?" Jake asked, his voice calm but firm. The cops turned, sizing him up. "Stay out of it, buddy. This is police business." Jake didn't back down. "From where I'm standing, it looks like harassment. And if she's not under arrest, maybe you should let her drink her coffee in peace." The diner fell silent. Forks paused mid-bite. Even the waitress froze behind the counter. The officer smirked. "You know who you're standing up for? These people aren't saints. She's a biker. A gang member." Jake glanced at the woman. Her eyes glistened, not with fear, but with years of being judged, dismissed, written off. "I don't care what patch she wears," Jake said. "She's a human being. And right now, you're treating her like less than that." Something shifted in the air. The cops exchanged looks. One muttered something about wasting time, and finally, with a huff, they walked out. Jake exhaled, ready to return to his coffee. But before he could sit down, the woman spoke. "Most people don't stick their necks out for me," she said softly. "Name's Roxanne." He nodded. "Jake. Glad to meet you." He thought that would be the end of it. But life doesn't work that way. Later that afternoon, as Jake was closing up the auto shop, he heard the rumble. It started faint, like distant thunder, then grew into a roar that shook the pavement. Motorcycles. Dozens. No, hundreds. He stepped outside just as the first bikes turned the corner. Chrome gleamed in the sun. Leather jackets, bandanas, patches, all flying the red and white colors of the Hells Angels. They filled the street, one after another, engines growling like a storm rolling through town. And at the center of it all was Roxanne, rolling forward in her wheelchair, a smile breaking across her face. Jake's stomach tightened. He didn't know if he was about to be thanked, or taught a painful lesson. The bikers dismounted, surrounding him in silence. One enormous man with a gray beard stepped forward. His presence alone could make grown men shake. "You Jake?" he asked. Jake swallowed. "Yeah." The man's eyes narrowed. Then he extended a hand. "You defended our sister today. That means you defended all of us." The crowd erupted in cheers, engines revving like applause. Roxanne rolled up beside Jake, tears in her eyes. "Most people see me as a burden," she said. "But you saw me as a person. You'll never stand alone again." Jake blinked, overwhelmed. For a man who had lost so much, his wife, his sense of family, that moment filled a hole in his chest he hadn't even realized was still bleeding. From that day on, the bikers made sure Jake and his daughter were looked after. If his shop needed business, motorcycles lined up outside. If his little girl needed a ride to school, she'd get there escorted by the loudest, proudest convoy in town. And word spread, not just about Jake, but about the idea that kindness doesn't care about patches, uniforms, or appearances. It cuts through all of it. So here's the truth. Sometimes, standing up for a stranger feels like a small act. But you never know how far the ripple goes. Jake defended one woman in a diner, and in return, he gained the loyalty of 250 bikers, and a family he never expected.